Chapter 6, 107, Ambushing Giant Sun's Will. Translator, Chibi General Editor, Chibi General. A will blazing like the sun passed through the glass owner token and attacked Fang Yuan's mind. The will was like a golden flood as it rampaged directly into Fang Yuan's brain. Will was formed from large numbers of specific thoughts. If Giant Sun's will was allowed to erode his mind, Fang Yuan could very likely turn into a demented amnesiac. This is bad. Quickly throw away that damned owner token. Mo Yao's will appeared in his mind and screamed. She was the will of a Gu immortal who had reached rank 7 before death. Her background knowledge of will was much deeper than Fang Yuan's. Her own gains and losses were linked to Fang Yuan, like two locusts tied with a thread. The mind was a vital place. Fang Yuan would not want to start a battle in there. No need to worry, he sneered. He was already prepared, so he was not concerned, soon activating the special will Gu. The special will Gu received the primeval essence and directly flashed into Fang Yuan's mind, blocking the will of Giant Sun. The golden-like will came to an abrupt stop, completely halted by special will Gu. The special will Gu then burst out with a strong absorption force, devouring Giant Sun's will unceasingly. The small will swallowed the big will, as if an ant swallowing an elephant, but Giant Sun's will had no ability to resist. Mo Yao's will was stumped for a while before coming to a realization, so Giant Sun's will was a special will. Wisdom Path had developed for a long time since its start at the remote antiquity era, continuing to this day. Will was classified under Wisdom Path, and naturally the contents regarding it were plentiful. Not only was will divided into many types, there were also all sorts of effects. Back when Fang Yuan had just ventured into it, he had already bought many Wisdom Path Gu worms. For example, Special Will Gu, Deliberate Will Gu, Play Will Gu, Keep Will Gu, and New Will Gu, which were specially used to condense Special Will, Deliberate Will, Play Will, Keep Will, and New Will. These 5 types of will had their advantages and disadvantages, requiring the Gu master themselves to choose the appropriate will according to the situation. Among them, special will could be arranged in advance and automatically trigger under special conditions. To explain this in a simple fashion, let's take a rat trap as an example. When a rat comes in contact with the trap, fulfilling the special condition, the rat trap will then activate, trapping the rat. The prior setup is triggered, activating the trap. Giant Sun. Immortal Venerable considered dangerous situations occurring in the future, and for the benefit of his descendants, he chose to use the most suitable special will Gu to create a will of himself and placed it in 88 True Yang Building. As long as the danger reached a certain degree, the special condition would be fulfilled, and the special will would trigger Giant Sun Immortal Venerable's prior setup. As for what the activation requirement of this prior setup was, outsiders did not know. Even Fang Yuan, who had been reborn, was not clear about it. But from the video clips in his previous life, he knew Giant Sun's will was a special will. Knowing this made it easier for Fang Yuan. Now, Giant Sun's will was an Immortal Venerable's will, but it must also follow the laws and great Tao of the world. The will was condensed by a Gu worm, and similarly could be subdued by the corresponding Gu worm. Thus, Giant Sun's special will was greatly restrained by special will Gu. Within Fang Yuan's mind, Giant Sun's will had yet to show its might before it was swallowed by Fang Yuan's special will Gu. After swallowing this will of Giant Sun, special will Gu's belly immediately bulged like a fatty who had stuffed himself to the limit. "Ha ha, what a great will!" Fang Yuan praised it, but was inwardly shocked. That was dangerous. Although it was restrained, it was, after all, an Immortal Venerable's will. Even if it was only a strand, it was really not easy to deal with. The glass owner token was a part of 88 True Yang Building. Giant Sun's will attacked Fang Yuan through this owner token, but if the owner token was compared to a passage, this passage was way too small and could only allow a strand of Giant Sun's will to pass. If the passage was just a bit bigger, the situation would be completely different. This strand of will that special will Gu had eaten was simply negligible compared to the Giant Sun's will in True Yang Building. Falling prey to Fang Yuan's small scheme, Giant Sun's will could not contain its anger. Swindler, you dared profane my Giant Sun's honor. I will crush you to pieces. Rumble. True Yang building started shaking, giving off all kinds of lights which infused the sky. A peerless power seemed to manifest, shaking heaven and earth. Even though Giant Sun Immortal Venerable had already died and was unable to mobilize 88 True Yang building using just his will. But within 88 True Yang building, Giant Sun Immortal Venerable had left behind a large amount of rank 9 yellow apricot immortal essence. Wild goo could directly absorb the primeval essence in the air, but would lose this ability when they are refined and have to absorb the goo master's primeval essence. 88. True Yang building was an immortal goo house and was under the command of Giant Sun's will. It could activate by absorbing the immortal essence left behind by Giant Sun Immortal Venerable. It was extremely simple and easy, as if it was natural. Run! Looking at 88. True Yang building about to show its power, Mo Yao's will anxiously warned Fang Yuan. Fang Yuan was a despicable thief who had refined a part of True Yang building, and now that Giant Sun's will had awakened, it classified him as an enemy. Fang Yuan did not have Giant Sun's bloodline. This enmity was too big. Fang Yuan was directly marked down, and an unprecedented killing intent was about to befall upon him. There's no hurry. Calamity was coming right for him, but Fang Yuan appeared indifferent and relaxed. He tightly held the glass owner token. This particular token was not simple. It was a product created by expending an immortal goo using an owner token as the base. It was a crucial key for which Central Continent's goo immortals and several large forces had prepared with meticulous care over thousands of years. Still causing trouble after death. What era are we living in now? Fang Yuan snorted, and with no fear sent a thought through the glass owner token, launching an ambush. Two Yang buildings shook intensely. The aurora that filled the sky instantly collapsed by over half. The phantom image that appeared when condensing the floors was like a candle in front of a great wind, as it collapsed and dissipated. Everything came to an abrupt stop. In True Yang building, Giant Sun's will let out a frightening and furious howl as it was besieged and attacked by countless special will goo. These special will goo were the preparation of Central Continent's goo immortals, which had been accumulated for thousands of years. A trump card specially arranged to deal with Giant Sun's will. Giant Sun's will's weakness was thoroughly targeted, like a sheep surrounded by a pack of wolves. It had immediately wanted to activate goo worms to massacre these special will goo. 88. True Yang building was an immortal goo house, a solidified killer move formed from many immortal goo and mortal goo. Naturally, it had methods to clean up the enemies. But Central Continent's goo immortals had researched deeply and already calculated this. Coordinating with special will goo's attack were other shocking methods, actually sealing all of the yellow apricot immortal essence Giant Sun Immortal Venerable left behind. True Yang building was not able to move without the immortal essence and immediately stopped all actions. Even though Giant Sun's will was seething with rage, it did not have any method to instantly resolve this, thus landing in a predicament. True Yang building sank into deathly stillness as Fang Yuan put his mind at rest. In his previous life, Central Continent's goo immortals relied on this method to slay Giant Sun's will and destroy 88 True Yang building. A pity I am still immortal and not a goo immortal. There is no way for me to reap profits from this. Fang Yuan felt a slight regret. This was Giant Sun's will. Even at its weakest moment, it was not something he could meddle with. In truth, even if he advanced into a goo immortal, with just one goo immortal's battle strength, the result would not be good. When the Central Continent goo immortals attacked Imperial Court Blessed Land, they had altogether 11 goo immortals, each of them an elite expert. But even then, only 3 were able to return in triumph. However, the sacrifices were worth it, as they received rich battle spoils. True Yang building was a spiritual symbol of Northern Plains, and when it was suddenly destroyed, the whole of Northern Plains suffered heavy impact. Their morale fell to the abyss, and they were forced into retreat continually in battles. If not for the Gu immortal Ma Hongyun, who repeatedly playing a vital role as a pillar during the most crucial times, northern plains would have already been annexed by central continent. As for the current Fang Yuan, he was safe for at least a period of time. What happened to True Yang building just now? Could it be the influence of Taibai Yun Sheng advancing to a Gu immortal was too big, and even 88 True Yang building was affected? Imperial court blessed land prohibits the entry of Gu immortals. Advancing to a Gu immortal here, like Taibai Yun Sheng, is an extremely rare event. Does this violate the arrangements made by old ancestor Giant Sun back then? True Yang building's abnormal changes caused this crowd of people who did not know the truth to be bewildered and start making guesses. True Yang building fell into a deathly stillness and did not show any movement for the moment. Soon everyone's gazes were attracted towards Taibai Yun Sheng again. Taibai Yun Sheng was floating in between the sky and the ground, continually taking in heaven chi and earth chi, combining them with his own human chi. The balanced three chi were pouring into the space where his aperture had once been. An extremely mysterious transformation was happening to his body. Whether it was his physical body or soul, they were both being tempered by heaven and earth chi. The essence of his life itself was elevating to a higher level. There were 3 steps in advancing to a Gu immortal. The first was breaking the aperture. The second was taking in the chi. Taibai Yun Sheng had an intact Gu immortal inheritance, and thus had a clear understanding of the key concerns in the process. So far, he was able to stabilize with no major hindrances. But how could advancing to a Gu immortal only have these obstacles? Compared to the majestic heaven chi and the vast earth chi, human chi originated from only Taibai Yun Sheng himself. Thus, there were endless amounts of heaven chi and earth chi, but human chi was limited in quantity, so the 3 chi needed to be in balance. There was no way to take in the surplus heaven chi and earth chi, so they were excluded and left to the side. As time passed, these heaven and earth chi accumulated in the sky and on the ground, gathering and condensing, the sheer quantity causing a qualitative change. Taibai Yun Sheng had too deep of an accumulation. He was able to draw in so much heaven and earth chi. Now the extra heaven and earth chi are condensing into calamity and tribulation. Ye Luisang's eyes flashed with burning light. The deeper the accumulation of the Gu master, the greater the difficulty in advancing to a Gu immortal. But if they succeeded, their potential future accomplishment would be that much higher. The risk and profits in this were directly proportional. Hey Lu. Lan watched on tightly without saying a word, putting all his effort in observing and gaining reference. Heavenly tribulations and earthly calamities. How did they form? The scene in front of them was displaying the whole process before everyone's eyes. Golden earth chi continued to become denser, and the turbid chi condensed into shape, gradually forming a one-horned great tiger. And the green heaven chi condensed into countless giant green willow leaves. Every willow leaf was the size of a boat. The one-horned great tiger was as large as a hill. It raised its head while crouching down, taking a jumping posture. The green willow leaves swayed as they spread in the sky, ready to strike. This is the earthly calamity lofty tiger and the heavenly tribulation willow wind. Fang Yuan's gaze flashed with a sharp light. Yes, Taibai. Yun Sheng stopped his crazed laughter, a grave expression filling his face. The crowd who were so far from all this could feel the endless power of the earthly calamity and the heavenly tribulation. Then what about Taibai Yun Sheng, who was at the center of this, the target of the earthly calamity and the heavenly tribulation? The spectating crowd was silent, the atmosphere turning heavy. Imperial Court Land Spirit, however, laughed loudly. The opportunity to break free from my captivity has appeared.